In this video, I took the opportunity to redraw 3 scenes from 3 different animes. Before I get into that, I'd like to welcome you to my channel. I do both traditional and digital art videos. If that sounds like something you'd be interested, please consider subscribing. And with that, let's get into my first drawing. To start out this video, I wanted to start with the iconic Sailor Moon redraw challenge. When it was going around on social media, I didn't really have the time nor the desire to partake in the challenge. I haven't actually watched Sailor Moon yet, but it is on my to-watch list, and I have purchased the first volume of manga to, at some point, read. Since I haven't watched this anime, I don't have much to comment on regarding the actual show, so here are some comments on the drawing. To start, for all of these drawings, I did trace/draw over the poses. I know some people have a lot of thoughts on what is or isn't tracing and the ethics of it. And I'm not trying to start a fight at all, so whatever your opinion is, keep it to yourself or keep it in my comments. This is obviously a redraw in my own style challenge, so the tracing was loose over the screenshot rather than tracing over the existing lines, because that defeats the point of the challenge. As you'll be able to see in the video, the reference is on the canvas beneath the drawing only for this initial part. I did have the little reference tab open that PROCREATE has while drawing, and I just wanted to be honest. Carrying on, this was the simplest and the fastest one to draw, as it was basically just drawing a face, my favorite thing to draw. At least that's what I'd like to say if it weren't for the fact that I ended up redoing this one. I'll let all the footage play so you can see both versions, but I finished the first one the same day I did the third drawing in this video, and something just wasn't right. I don't think it looked bad per se, but it just wasn't right, if that makes sense. It's all self-explanatory for my drawing process, sketch, line art, color, so I'll move on to the second one. I started drawing it the same way I drew the other one. If I'm being honest, I really didn't change anything. I just came back to it the next day and redid my own drawing process. Overall, I don't know how much of a difference it actually made, and honestly, I like both of them. They're both a little bit different in regard to color and pose, but I would say the first one is more of a faithful recreation of the original, while the second one I feel like fits my style a bit more. For my second redraw, this is actually the inspiration for this video. I started watching the anime Honey Lemon Soda, and when I saw the screenshot from the intro theme song, I really wanted to draw it. I loved the watercolor background. So what you just saw was me drawing the pose and outlining where the lemons need to go on the background. But the background was simple enough, but I did struggle with the lemons. Originally, I was going to draw each lemon individually before I decided to just focus on one at a time. I also didn't really know what brushes to use in PROCREATE, so it was a little bit of trial and error. I did end up using some of the painting category brushes, but because I wasn't familiar with the brushes, I also wasn't super prepared for how they'd interact with each other, so I struggled. Eventually, I decided I was focusing too much on copying the image, and I decided to just have more fun with it. I messed around with the glow effect, and then I just copy and pasted the lemons around the canvas, rotating them so they didn't look identical. Next, I did the little balls/bubbles. I ended up using the sketching category brushes, if I remember correctly. Speaking of brushes, I'll link some of the artists whose brushes I have downloaded, because I did alternate between a ton of brushes for these drawings, and I don't remember whose brushes I actually used and whose just like I considered using or anything like that, but they'll be in the description. With these little bubbles, I did do the same thing as I did with the lemons, copy-paste. On to the actual drawing of Honey Lemon Soda's main character, Ishimori Yuka. I struggled a lot with the lips/facial expressions with this one because I haven't explored my style enough to kind of figure out how to draw mouths in my style. Normally, I just draw like closed lips and then it's either a smile or a frown. But eventually I landed on something I was happy with, and it made the next illustration a bit easier to figure out. You'll understand why. Overall, I'm really enjoying this anime. It's currently airing on Crunchyroll on Thursdays, subbed, and I typically watch it on Friday morning with breakfast. While it is very similar to some of the other romance animes I've watched, it is also a bit different, which I like. I won't get into any spoilers, but I would recommend it if you are someone who likes romance anime and doesn't mind the high school tropes that tend to come with it. Additionally, I think it's super interesting that every character has an eye color in some kind of yellow color, alluding to the color of honey lemon soda. It was a very fun thing to notice. It's about this part in the speed paint when you can see me redrawing the face, and this is because the entire time I was drawing, it kept looking off. I realized that it was because I made the head too long. This is the first drawing I did, despite it being the second one in the video, and for this part I traced over the face because I wasn't really sure how I wanted to proceed with my redraw yet, and I think I got like too into my head about it. But when it came to drawing Sailor Moon and drawing the next one, I just kept a circle as where the head should be and then followed my usual drawing practices. Anyway, I made the face/head too long, so I redrew it as if I were going to draw it normally, and it made it so much better as I tend to draw my facial features much closer together, and when I was going off the screenshot, the characters in Honey Lemon Soda have much longer faces. Additionally, I don't really tend to draw floating hair, so I kept struggling with that. Finally, I just decided to make it less floaty than the reference, and that made it look more correct/more in my style. I think if I were going to redo this one, I'd focus less on the reference during the beginning, as some of the anatomy is a bit different from my usual style, specifically with the torso. Typically when I'm drawing, I use myself as a reference, and I have a shorter torso, but I still have long legs, so I got that right at least. Also, I didn't want to do the pattern on the skirt, so I didn't. Everything else with the coloring was what I was used to. And for my final redraw of this video, I had to do a scene from my comfort anime that has been featured on this channel technically twice already, multiple times if you follow me on social media, Spy X Family. Yes, I know you don't say the X, but I can't stop it. This one in particular comes from the movie, so yes, I have finally watched it, and the screenshot is vague enough so I don't consider it to really spoil anything, so there you go. I won't really be talking about it either, aside from it's hilarious, go watch it, and then it's finally on Crunchyroll both subbed and dubbed. Because for a while it was in the theaters, and then it never came out, and I was just sitting there waiting. You get it. Moving on, this one actually had a background, and I was not about to freestyle a background on my self-imposed deadline of drawing all of these in 3 days. So I did trace that. Everything else I did more of a loose trace in order to get that pose correct, as I'd been doing with the other two drawings. And then I had to do side profile. Now, side profiles are my enemy because I don't know how the way I draw noses looks from the side. I pulled up different references on Pinterest and kind of ended up with something I'm actually really happy with. I sketched in the clothes and everything over top, pretty self-explanatory. Most of their silhouettes were covered by their coats, so it wasn't too bad. As with the Honey Lemon Soda drawing, I started with the background. At first, I thought I wanted to make a sunset of my own to cast through the windows, but I did end up scrapping that and sticking closer to the reference with the warm golden glow. I moved on to the interior with the line art and some rough coloring, then I moved on to the line art for Yor and Lloyd, and I'm actually super happy with how this piece turned out because I think I actually managed to capture their likeness, and I'm super happy with how the faces turned out. If you've been following me on social media, I've drawn the Forager family a couple times at this point, and I always struggle with capturing their likeness, which is why I don't tend to do fan art all that often, in case you were wondering. Now, coloring proceeded as normal, and then I struggled with the lighting. The warm glow and the backlit lighting was so hard for me to try to capture. I've never been taught anything about lighting. I'm completely self-taught in that regard, so this was my attempt. It's definitely super warm, but I'm not sure I captured the glow/backlighting super well. As you can see, I tried a lot of things before settling on this. And with that, those were my attempts at anime screenshot redraws. My social media is linked in the description below if you're interested in following me anywhere else. I'm most active on Blue Sky. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below on this video, and I'll see you in the next one.